Hello, everybody, and welcome to this wonderful afternoon again of the Utopia Theatre Creative Hub. Thanks so much for joining us. And if this is your first time, welcome. And to our regulars, thanks so much for sticking with us. We hope you continue enjoying the Creative Hub with us. I would also like to acknowledge at some point the board of Utopia Theatre. I think they'll be joining us at some point as well. So thank you if you're already here. Welcome. Just to remind everybody, please keep your microphones muted through the session, but would really love it if you could show us your faces from behind the camera so we could interact a bit more if you're happy to keep your video on for us. During the session today, we're going to be talking to a legend, and we would be very happy to welcome lots of questions or just comments in the comments box right from the onset, because this would just be a question and answer session and he's going to be telling us all about himself. I will introduce you to him in a moment. Remember to interact with Utopia Theatre and also the creative who is here with us today. So if you can find our platforms anywhere on social media or his platforms, please give them a shout out and talk about what's happening here today. Remember, we are piloting the Creative Hub, so any comments regarding technology will help us improve for future Creative Hub events. So please feel free to let us know. And of course, if you feel like it's something you'd want to email us privately, we are on info@utopiatheatre.co.uk. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Now, so our next guest is an icon of the theatre industry. And it gives me so much pleasure to be, and humility actually, to be able to be speaking to him with you today. He set up Iroko Theatre company in 1996. He holds an MA in Dramatic Arts from the National Academy of Theatre and Film Arts in Bulgaria. He's a visiting lecturer with multiple universities, introducing students to African theatre, storytelling, and as part of the World Theatre Studies programs. With so many accolades to his name, please give a warm welcome to Alex Oma Pius. Hello, Alex.
Hello, everyone. What an intro. Are you sure you're talking about me?
You have to sit comfortably in that because you've earned it. It's so lovely to have you at the Creative Hub.
Well, you have legends here. There you are, Annie, Shola, mentioned them, everybody there, and you're talking about me.
Okay, courtesy to all of you sitting in the gallery today, Alex Oma has given you the accolades, so well done to you. Alex, shall we just start from understanding who Alex Oma Pius is?
Who am I? Alex Oma Pius, I'm from Nigeria. The name Alex, actually, I've never heard my mom call me Alex. Never has she used her mouth to call me Alex. There's a bit of story there. Oma just means the son of Pius. So Alex Oma Pius. Traditionally, my parents will call me Keire Lumi, or Keire, which means please may you stay for me. So if you follow the way African names are given, the reason was because my mom gave birth, 1, 2, 3, and they were all stillbirth. So when I came, they gave me Keire, in full Keire Lumi. But if growing up in Nigeria in school, primary school, I remember when we were driven away to go and get supposedly an English name. And that's how I saw my mom in the garden, and she just said, tell them your name is Alexjada. Alec what? So that was how I was singing, singing Alexjada till I got to the school, and then that's what became Alex, Oma Pius.
That's an amazing story. The number of us who had that journey, but also it's very telling moving from that into African theatre, dedicating your I don't know, since 1996, you've dedicated your time to African theatre?
Yes, since 1996, and then it was accidental, really. It was accidental. I mean, people like Shola, they will remember there was a company called Zuria in those days. So when I came to this country in 1990, I was looking for, how to make it in the theater. And Zuria took me on, I was volunteering for Zuria for some time, I think around 1993, 94, volunteering for Zuria. And I saw what they were doing. And it's something that was completely new to me, going into schools. And it sort of reminded me of what my professor used to say to me. He used to say to in Bulgaria, Alex, you need to look into your culture, look into your culture. It became one of the things he was on. I never understood what he meant. Look into your culture. We'll do a production and he will say, do African thing. And I'm wondering, why am I doing it? Why are you asking me African things? People are doing here Shakespeare, I'm doing this. Always you're asking me to do African things. So it was through Zuria I started thinking back to what my professor had been telling me. And I just got fascinated about how you can use storytelling, for example, as an educational tool. And that was it. That was it. And unfortunately, when in 1995, thereabout, Zuria folded, I sat home, for about 3 to 6 months doing nothing. And I just thought, look, storytelling, I could do this in schools. And that was how, just one morning, I asked my wife, could you give me £5? What for? I just bought stamps, bought £5 stamps. Those days, I think they were about 12 to 14p or something like that, a stamp. So that was how I bought stamp, and I did a whole mail merge to Camden Town. Those who knows, Camden, what they call Borough Council, the schools there. If you know London, the Camden schools. They were the first place I emailed, just telling them, look, I can do this, I can do that. Unfortunately, someone, wrote back from Kingsway College and said, look, we are having a Black History Month. Can you come and do something for us? We're going to do it. We can't pay you, but if we like it, we might call you back. So I had to think about it. How am I going to, the transportation and so on. But I went and I did it for free. Fortunately, this person gave me a very, very good reference. I wasn't expecting it. I just knew I didn't ask for it, but a week or so, I saw this letter in the post, good reference. And that was what I started using, in writing to other schools. And that, in a way, was the beginning of Iroko. That was the beginning of Iroko.
That's just brilliant. That's quite fascinating, of course. You just gave it your shot and there you were, you on your journey then.
Yes, belief. Because after sitting down for a few months after when Zuria closed, the funding was, withdrawn there. And I always had it in me. Something was always telling me, Alex, you can do this, you can do this. And it's that belief, especially for young people these days, if something keeps something knocking at you and you ignore it. This is what I didn't do. I just had to wake up one day and said, let me answer to this knock. And that was it.
Lovely. Brilliant. Thank you. And what about the name Iroko? So this is 1996. You done a bit of a gig here and there. And how does it come about, Iroko? Why?
Once we went to a performance in Leeds, and as we were coming on stage, and it was this, clapping and saying, welcome to Iroko Theatre Company from Japan. And I said, what? Iroko from Japan? That was, they saw the company that was coming. I don't know. I had to look at it later on that actually there is an Iroko as a word in Japanese. But this is Iroko as an African name. Iroko is a tree. Anybody within the Yoruba tradition will know the name Iroko. In other places, they call it Uloko. I think in the East, they call it OKOCC. And, I know that down somewhere around East and South Africa, there's this name Tule, Tule. That is the tree, one of the strongest trees, very, durable tree. And within the Yoruba mythology, Iroko symbolizes a lot, the fact that this is something that never dies, you know. So for me, in trying to set up a theater company that will be propagating or sort of sharing awareness about African culture and heritage that I believe will never die, in my own opinion, I could only choose a symbolic, tree like the Iroko. And that is why the company is called Iroko.
That's amazing. Thank you very much for that. Just to remind everybody that's in the gallery there, please put your hands up, your electronic hands up, so I can see if you want to ask a question. If you have comments or questions as well, you can also leave them in the chat, and I'll keep an eye out for them. That would be amazing. That would be really handy for us. Thank you. Alex, so you've definitely got to a stage where we can say that an Iroko tree has yielded fruit because you've been sustainable and you've been true to the art form. I think it's quite a while.
Well, it has. It's not been easy. I mean, these days there are schools they will call, and the first question will be, "Are you still there? Are you still open?" We are still here. Touch wood. Like you said, symbolically, the Iroko tree is still standing, and it's been a very difficult climate, especially now with the pandemic. But we just hope that we'll weather the storm.
Right. Yeah. So with your kind of tenacity, what do you think drives you? What should younger people, aspiring persons that want to do similar stuff to what you're doing, be able to do? What should they tap into from your wisdom?
Gosh, I think I will go back to that word, believe. You have to believe in yourself. I know that believe it's not enough, but somehow we need that support. If you look at my own story, that support, little support, unexpected support, it is that reference. Is that reference I got from the lady at Kingsway College. I don't forget that letter to today, because I genuinely believe that if I didn't have that letter, to include, attached to all my other emails, I was, not emails then, they were in 1992, letters I was sending out, perhaps I would not have been as successful initially as we were, because it was a very good reference. But added to that is perseverance. We have to persevere, because it's not easy. It's not easy. At times you knock and knock and knock at the doors do not open. What I would say to any young one is, don't give up. Don't give up. I give you a good example. Iroko, we're trying to replace our van. But we got that van in 2000, and it was just me sitting down. I saw this application, the Foundation for Sports. They are now, a defunct organization, and I just wrote it within, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours application, and they gave us this van, right? Mm-hmm. When they brought the van, I said, no, this van was too big. I don't need this van. And someone said to me, what are you saying? Is this how Iroko is going to remain? This was 2000. Take the van. We took that van. The reason I'm saying this is now, for the past 3 years, we've been trying to replace the van, because 2000, 2000 we got a van. We've been trying to replace that van. And all the doors we have been knocking at, all the applications we've been writing has been turned down. But will that stop me? I will still continue, because without that van, the Iroko does not exist. It's even more than our office. It's the van that takes us all around the country. a grant, what do you call it, a trust recently refused the van and said, look, you can apply for a project. And my answer to him, how do I do the project if you don't give me the van? If and we need about 50 drums, to take, into schools and so on. You are asking me to go and do the project, but I need a van. You understand? So those type of things that can make you feel disillusioned. 3 years we've been looking for the van now, but we must not give up. We must not. There are more challenges than that. I only use that as an example of things that could happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that as well. So African theater, we've touched a little bit on it, but to you personally, what is African theater?
Wow. For me, and within, the area that we are operating, because originally we came to this country, I really wanted, to do mainstream theater. By then I went to, the Royal Court, the then Tricycle, that's changed name now, even as Theatre Royal Stratford here. I was there looking about how to, penetrate, do things there at the initial stage, until I got drawn into theater and education, into theater and education. And the more I was into theater and education, the more I realized then how African culture, African heritage, was not being really understood. People are just looking at things from the aesthetic. They call you for dance, and they want you to. They ask you, do you have raffia and so on. Raffia, you don't just wear raffia. Anybody who knows about African dance, raffia, they are all symbols. Raffia are symbols. If you are wearing green raffia, for example, it's symbol. If the raffia, the dry brownish one, they represent things. You don't just call me because you want me to see my thighs and legs, and you ask me to come and wear raffia and all those things. So I started looking at it deeply to see African theater, storytelling particularly, the role it can play in education, the role it plays, because at home, as a child, I remember, growing up, if you do something at times, your parents will tell you a story. They will use a story, to speak to you, and you can see yourself in the story they're telling you. And that story is actually warning you against what you have done, And this is the way I got drawn into using Africa to change people's perception, to start looking at African theater, African storytelling, particularly as an educational tool, And yeah, that has been my ambition. That has been my ambition.
Wonderful. So you have worked a lot with schools, and from basically you're rooted in the school system quite a lot, aren't you?
Yes, we work in schools a lot. Originally we started with just doing storytelling performances, but as the demand started growing, people started requesting maybe African dance, and slowly the company started evolving in responding to all these needs. But over the years, we have diversified in different areas so that we're doing a lot of heritage activities now. Thanks to Heritage Lottery Fund, who has been so kind to us. We identify certain aspects of African heritage that we want to raise awareness of, and yes, we take it as a project. For example, at the moment, we're looking at at 4 Nigerian nonverbal communication systems. You know, over the past 2 weeks, I've been looking at people's responses. You know, people have been phoning in, people who don't know things like Nsibidi, for the Nsibidi symbols of Eastern Nigeria. You know, if in this country, before we started the project, I carried out a lot of research, asking people, even those from the East, Igbos, for example, what is Nsibidi? Most people, 85% of those who we asked do not know what Nsibidi is, you know? Then there is Iroko. When we say the Iroko symbol, which is the Yoruba, people say, no, Iroko. No, I'm not talking, well, I'm from Iroko. I'm asking of Aroko as a symbol, you know, the way, the means of communication among the Yorubas. You know, these things were there before pre-colonial, you know. What are they? Most people do not know. And those who know, we always associate this devilish, you know, aspects to things. And those are the ways that we allow our culture to die, allow the young people to explore them, because we have already put this negative tag on them. So if I hold two cowries, for example, now, if I send you two cowries tied together as an example, you know, you, if you are from Christian background, you might not take it. You might not take it because these are cowrie shells. People attach different meanings to cowrie shell. But among the Yorubas, if you have two cowrie shells facing each other like this, it's a symbol of love. It's a symbol of love. Now, these are the ways people have sent messages over the years. Orange, you know, in those days, you give somebody, you give a girl an orange. What does it symbolize? They used to mean things, you know. So these are the things that we look at different aspects of African heritage, and from time to time, we use, you know, apart from do research, and also use the performative to actually raise awareness about the heritage.
That's just powerful. Me being of Southern African heritage, it's amazing how many parallels I can draw from what you're actually saying. I can see the village set up where theater is displayed in the evenings, and there are all those symbolic things that are displayed. But then when you go to the city, there's that alienation, I guess, from the symbolism and associating it with evil. Yeah.
Yes, yes. We have, I mean, we have done a performance in this country, and you look at it, it was the son, I mean, these are second, or we call them third generation maybe. I mean, he wanted to surprise his father, you know, birthday celebration, and he wanted African, you know, sort of feeling. And he said to me, he's looked at our website and he wants masquerade. Masquerade. I said, okay. So we organized everything, took masquerade to this event. You cannot believe we've not been paid today now for about 15 years, because the father walked out from the event, that a masquerade appeared on his birthday celebration. You know, it's like we came there, we went there to ruin his birthday. Unfortunately, I mean, we wouldn't take any ritual. There are different type of masquerades. You know, we will never take ritual masquerade from Nigeria to come here. Any masquerade you will see, there will be celebratory, you know, masquerade. A masquerade that you can use maybe for marriage, that type of birthday celebration, and so on. That was what we did. The man walked out, you know. Is that type of understanding, we not actually understanding our culture, you know, which, you know, and attaching the negative, you know, and that is the challenge we have.
Thank you. Just to remind everybody, we are taking questions from you. Please let us know what you would like to ask Alex Oma Pius, your questions, or put your hands up electronically in the electronic facility there. That's just powerful. So I'm just guessing there have been a lot more barriers in terms of thriving as a sector, and also just as a culture. So as African theatre, your biggest barriers in terms of pushing what you've been trying to do, what have you faced?
The biggest barrier is perception. You know, it's perception, and that is what we are trying to overturn. And thank goodness we're still here after, you know, 20-something years, because when people don't, like I said earlier on, people don't attach the same level of respect. This is in my own opinion. I might be wrong, but my candid opinion is that people do not attach the same amount of respect they will attach to a Western art form. So, for example, if I go to school, right? I drive the minibus. I arrive, go to the reception. Most often, the question they ask me, even though they know I might be wearing Iroko, the question they will ask me for, say, are you here to deliver the milk? And usually I say to them, yes, I'm here to deliver cultural milk. And before the conversation continues, oh, you are from a theater company. Okay, theater company. Oh, you are the drummers. Yes, we are the drummers. But it is this, you can see behind it, there is no respect in what you are doing. But quite often, after the day, it's like something changes. Something changes. But it's getting them to actually see you and actually, know that something positive can come out of this person in front of me. I'm not here to deliver milk. Is that type of thing we're thinking about? How do you change people seeing you just firstly like that? This is who they think you are.
Lovely. Yeah, thank you. And what about markers of success? I think we usually shy away from our success. I know at the beginning of this call, you were kind of cowing away from talking about yourself, but you've done some amazing work. So I would just like to get a bit of a feel of what your markers of success have been through the years.
Well, that's a difficult one. Right? To be honest, if you ask me, I think it was out of nowhere. I got a call from the Guardian newspaper, that they want to run an article on Iroko. I was in, and I said, which Guardian? Is the worst times to Guardian, or we live here in Islam? And he said, no, I'm calling from the Guardian newspaper. And the Guardian, they came, they interviewed me, they went around, came to a number of our sessions in schools. And I was surprised, it was the education, is it editor, they call him the correspondent then. And then they invited us to go in for the Guardian Charity Award. And that was how we went in for the award, and we won. The Guardian Charity Award, and it was described as innovative approach to education. The innovative approach to education, how we are using African theater to enhance learning, in a different way, to the point that, the teachers are learning from us using this fun, indirect way of teaching. Now people are talking about, the STEM, STEM. If you look at STEM, we've been doing STEM with storytelling, because we use storytelling, to talk about geography, talk about mathematics, you talk about, whether it is language, it is geography, through storytelling, And for me, that point where we won the Guardian Charity Award, it was really the high success for Iroko. I mean, with other things, people have given us one award, but it's that sort of national recognition, because after the award, we had a center spread on Guardian, and it came with something else. It came with 5,000. Yes, sir. That was different, you know.
No, I mean, that's phenomenal. You know, your success is a success for each and every other African person in there that's working in the sector as well. So definitely well done. Yeah, you should not cower away from that. I'm going to go and take an audience question. Annie Domingo has got a question for you. Annie Domingo?
You need to unmute. Okay.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
I'm okay, Annie. How are you? Hey, nice to see you.
You too. I just wonder because a lot of your work is to do with schools, and I just wonder how do you think your work is going to change with schools, and what do you have to put in place to be able to work with schools after COVID because so many things have changed.
Annie, if so many things have changed, and that is it's a dilemma for us now. We don't know what is going to happen in September. But the good news is that as I'm talking to you now, we are producing about 4 videos for schools. These are schools that have actually asked us to produce content for them. They you know, especially I think 2 special needs schools. They want us to produce videos that they can, you know, now share with their parents. So it is this type of, I don't know how we will be able to continue, but I'm very hopeful that this type of inquiry, if they could keep coming in, we will be able, hopefully, to survive. We have got few inquiries from schools, you know, for Black History Month celebration, you know, fingers crossed, you know, assuming that things, you know, the pandemic, there's no other spike in it. So we hope for maybe from September, who knows, you know, but it's never going to be the same again.
No.
You know, never going to be the same. Some of the libraries as well, they are requesting for content now. Usually we go to libraries for performances, but as at yesterday, a library was requesting for a content, you know, that they can share with schools, you know.
Does this mean that you have to now get a bigger video company to be doing this? Because if you're having lots of demands, you're going to be moving more into filming some of these rather than actually performing this in places. Is this the way you think that, at least for a while, that might be the way to go?
You are absolutely right, because at the moment, what we're doing now is we're still tagging along with the fact that, oh, they want to see you doing things from your home and so on. But that has its own limitation.
Yeah.
You know, filming with video, what I mean, with iPhone and so on. And we doing the little editing we can do, you know, with our own little skill. You're absolutely right. I think we will need at some point real professional, you know, video company to come and work with us.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Annie Domingo. I have a question for you, Alex. I came upon some recent, very wise thing that you looked at regarding objects in museums, African objects specifically, and how we perceive them, and the story around that and our heritage. Could you just enlighten all of us about what you were thinking when you were talking about heritage and the objects that we see in museums that are African?
You know, it all started about probably about 15 years ago. I was working in a school in Haringey, and we had a 2-day residency at the school. At the end of the second day, the children, they put up a performance, and at the end of the performance, someone came to me and said he would like to work with Iroko, and if I could give him a call, and he gave me the card, and he was the community officer of the British Museum. So I had a meeting with him, and to cut the story short, they wanted us to be part of their access, developing and, access to a museum and so on. So it's for us to be able to encourage people to come to the African Gallery and view the, the objects then. And it was then it occurred to me that people, when they come to the gallery, actually, they're only looking at the objects from the aesthetics, which is fine. But some of the objects, if you, by then, 15 years ago, if you go to the Sainsbury African Gallery, if you go there, you look at some of the objects, most of them have other, hidden meanings, untold stories, hidden stories, So after doing that project, it actually aroused my interest in heritage. That was the beginning. That was where the seed was sown for me. And the very first heritage project I did was Heritage Africana. And there is a book, a little story book there, which we published, Shosho and the Villagers. I'm sure our Rob could show that later on. Shosho and the Villagers was actually based on about 15 to 20 real objects at the British Museum, real objects. And we now developed a story. Yes, that is Shosho and the Villagers. We now developed a story around the objects, but also telling the meaning of the objects, what they represented. And the British Museum, to be honest, themselves, they learned from the project, because most of them did not understand that deep meaning that some of those objects, that they hold. That was it. And that's how I started, seriously looking at African heritage. That was the beginning.
Such a wonderful story to tell, especially now that we're now talking a little bit more about how objects in museums have been obtained, whether legally or illegally. But then you bring in that angle we were talking about. Actually, this is not just an object for you to look at aesthetically. There's a lot more information around it. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more. For example, there was this object. It was a pot, from the Igbos in Nigeria, and this pot usually they use it maybe not maybe during a circumcision. Sorry, that you could say, as so much fascination people had for this body, looking at that pot. But when you tell them what that pot was, it started having a different meaning. People will start seeing it differently or appreciating it more, and rather than just seeing it as a pot that is well made, that is a covey and this. But that heritage that this is actually for circumcision, it brings out a wider, dimension to, to the object.
Thank you so much. I've now got Kene Gwono, who's got a question for you.
Oh my!
Hi everyone. I'm Kene Gwono. I'm the president of the African Theatre Association. I'm sorry I haven't got my video on. My internet is really very poorly today. It's been dropping off. Hi Alex. Nice to listen to some of the things you really said here. I've always appreciated the work you do, as you know, and I have invited you in the past to come and do workshop with our students. And yes, the feedback has always been phenomenal. So well done for the work you're doing. And it's great to see that you've actually started the movement already, from not just delivering workshops, but actually producing educational materials that other people can use to teach and things like that. I think that's really great that you're having producing those materials, not just delivering workshops, but actually having those materials there for people to download and use. I think that's great. But my question for you is that often I have students who say to me, I want to start a theater company, I'm not quite sure where to start. What would be your advice for somebody who maybe is just graduating, and they want to start their own theater company, what would be the main thing you ask them to do? Of course, they don't have any money to start with. They don't even know where to start. They just know they like performing, but they also want to bring other people along to form an ensemble to perform and make money, hopefully. What would be your advice?
That's a big question, you know. That is a big question, especially.
Well, you've done it. We are talking about you today because you've done it, and we can see the success of it.
Yes, yes. Thank you. But in this climate, I would like to actually have a sit down with the young person. But it's got to be belief. No matter what, he has to have that belief that is what he is going in for money. Because if he wants it just to, for economics reasons, I'm sorry, he might be disillusioned. But if it is actually what he wants, this is his heart, and as a result, he will have the resolve to be committed no matter what obstacles he's going to face. Then there will be, the light at the end of the tunnel, because it will be about his ability to persevere, to continue in the face of all the adversities that he might be facing. Whether, it's not easy to look at it from funding, because is it theater in education he wants to go into? Is it setting up a theater for, aiming for some sort of community theater performances? Or is he going to go for, mainstream? These are, decisions. I have chosen to remain, within theater and education, within the community, serving the community. This is where personally I derive my joy. Because I love working with children. That this is just the fact. That I go to school, and at the end of the day, a child can tell me how he or she, has, having a different perception or has learned something today. Those are where I get my own joy from, which is worth more than $1 million anybody will pay me. But the new person who wants to form a new theater company, he has to make these 3 decisions. Is it a theater? Is it just a community theater doing productions? Or am I going to aim for the, to compete with the big ones out there, And those are the things that we will decide how he or she moves forward, in my own opinion.
Thank you. That's really useful. So once somebody is done, make those 3 decisions, and what are some of the practical things they can do in terms of actually setting up? So they've made it, they've kind of, okay, let's say they want to do theater and education, and they want to actually just do it in a particular locality. It's not a national project. What should they do next? How do they start? Where do they write to schools? Do they, how do they start? That's the kind of challenge there.
Well, it depends on the stage they are. If they have already got the name of the theater company, are they registered? What sort of registration? Are they registered as one of these charities? Because we are a charity, but I know there are different forms of charitable organizations now that CIC, NIMIC, I don't know. But or are they, a going concern like, a company, If they are registered now, I think if they want to be commercial, it's a different if they are within the charity, which means they can look for funding, maybe to do work in schools, maybe starting with little parts of applications to do little things here within the community. It could be even running summer schemes, and from there, and you start branching into doing maybe productions, to take into schools. Yeah, that is it really.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Iguano. I've got Olushola Oyeleye with a question.
Hi, Alex. I wanted to ask you, the work that you're doing and companies like you in terms of theatre and education, how can we convince arts funding to put this work at the centre rather than at the periphery? Because the work that you're doing in an educational setting is crucial, not only to education, enlightenment, carrying on with the culture, but also for artists coming up. And always, theatre in an educational setting is, dare I say, considered not given the same profile. You've even said it yourself. It's not given the same profile. How can we convince them that's the core of the work rather than something, a stepping stone or the periphery?
Well, thank you very much for that question. And I'm sure you yourself, you've experienced, school activities and funding. It goes back to what I said earlier on about the perception, which is a big shame. Because if you're talking about changing perception, about, community cohesion, you need this theater in education, to going into schools, changing the very, very young ones who, their perceptions are not formed yet, but they are seeing things. But the fact is, how do we get the funders to actually see this as a very, very important? I don't know the answer to this. The reason is because if I have my own experience with the Arts Council, sad to say, Arts Council, they did fund us once. The last funding we got was actually doing a national tour with an education budget, which was, somebody was there, saw what the proposal, and they bought into it. This is where the individual, these people who make decisions, this is where it comes, because after having a number of consultation with the person, he saw Iroko and he said, I don't know you do this, all these type of things. When people see Iroko, we just thought it was dance. But I went to them with the presentation. Fortunately, we were funded. So as at the time we were going to go for the second, they actually invited us to take this project further. As at the time we were going to submit the second application, I got there, this person was being moved and handed me over to a colleague. And that was where he died. This was where he died. And I was talking about not being disillusioned, but to be honest, I was so disillusioned that up to now, I have not applied to Arts Council because we had all the hope. We had hope. We had every evidence. The first funding was so successful. You invited us to put in. It's just that someone was moving from the department, handed us over to you, and you punctured us. This is it, where the role of an individual, So at times it's not actually the institution. At times it is actually who is operating, who is within that institution that is, not, appreciating or making things happen. This is how I see it. But we must not give up. We must not give up. I said I have not applied to Art Council for a long time, but I'm looking at them again. So I'm looking at, especially in this climate, I'm looking at them again. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Olushola, was that satisfactory? Lovely. Thank you very much. Everybody, we've still got time for at least another question or so. And if you could put your hand up if you want to ask a question, or write it in the comment and I'll get to you. I have one question off my list that I would really like to hear from you. One of the aims of Iroko Theatre is that of advancing health and well-being. I am curious about what that actually, obviously I'm very simplistic in my understanding of that, but could you just give us an example of what that looks like from an African theatre perspective?
That's a good question. Thank you very much for that, because again, I'm still talking about appreciation of African art. I will start by telling you because the company started evolving in accordance with needs. When people started inviting us, to African drumming, it was then I sat down, listening to their comment. You do a performance, people say, "Oh, that's my gym for the day." Oh, I was depressed before I came here. Now I feel happy. And that was how I started thinking about using African drumming differently, so that you are not just coming to do African boom, 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 which everybody sees. And that is what they attach to it. Oh, they're coming here to make noise again. But to see it as something beneficial for health. And we were so lucky that we have someone in NHS, again, the role of an individual, someone in NHS who bought into into our vision, so much so that we did the first project, which was called Forgotten Folks. If Forgotten Folks came about, we were doing just drumming workshop in a park in Stratford, and some elderly people came, and this lady made a statement, say, "Why can't we elderly people have this type of thing all the time?" And that was how I engaged her in a discussion. Would you like to do this workshop again? Of course she would like to do it. And she gave me all the reasons why she would like to do another drumming workshop, told me how she had felt. The person I'm saying is not black, it's white. This was a white lady who was telling me how she benefited coming to our open air session that afternoon. So that was how I started looking at our drumming, that so much so that at the moment, at the height of the pandemic, we were working with Northeast London NHS Foundation, working with NHS staff. So 2:00 in the afternoon, all the staff, they were down tool for half an hour. I would be in front of my room here, provide music, just ha for them as a sort of well-being. They use whatever instrument they can find within the office. If some of them are at home settings, we do all these things through Zoom. So in a way, it's enabling them, to relieve the tension of what they've been going through. But most importantly, at the moment, we're using African drumming, working with, organizations, the elderly people with different type of, what they call livable mental health issues. Mm-hmm. For example, it might be mild dementia and so on. So we have different NHS elderly people's units who are, using our service. So this is where African drumming for health comes in.
That's just amazing. Aren't we just an amazing people? Well done, Alexander.
Yeah, all of
yeah. I've got a question from Sharina, and after Sharina, we're going to have Kehinde Bankole.
Hello, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Alex, for your talk so far. It's been really inspiring, actually. I formed some time ago a very small theatre company, which was aimed at creating a platform for African and African Caribbean creatives. And I just wanted to ask you about fundraising, which you touched upon moments ago, because I haven't applied for Arts Council funding. I've applied for 2 other local funding initiatives, only to be knocked back on the basis of, first of all, of not having enough community engagement in my projects. And the second knockback I haven't had an explanation for it yet. They're going to give me feedback. So I'm trying to keep going, as you've suggested, and I think that's right. But I wonder if you have any advice about how we engage the African and African Caribbean community in financially supporting the arts, because it seems to me that that's really where we need to go, because I'm quite tired of the holders of the purse strings being drawn from such a narrow demographic, white middle class, and really they only fund or appear to fund organizations that they know well or who have a track record in delivering publicly funded work, which is really hard to establish if you're a startup theatre company like we are. So I just wanted to know what your advice is about trying to engage the African and African Caribbean community in supporting the arts. Yeah.
I mean, thank you very much for that. It is a tough one because to engage our own African Caribbean community, you need to look at our surroundings, I would say, because you have to buy into something for you to start supporting it. I'm not saying that our people like culture. They like a good dance, they like a good story, they like a good theater company. But have we actually, within the African Caribbean community, have we got the people that will actually support financially? This is where I have my doubt. There might be things happening out there that we don't know. People choose usually to support maybe the big ones, but organizations like you, the little organizations starting up like this, these are the people that need the support to be able to stand on their feet. It's like providing, millions of pounds to the National Theatre. The National Theatre can click their finger like this and get the million. It is organizations like you and ours, that need support. But where are our people? Where are there are African Caribbean companies, private companies that could support art. But they themselves, they have to believe in it. What you are saying to me, and somebody has said that to me. I mean, you've been looking for this van. I don't know if you were here when I talked about buying a new van. He said, "Look,
yes,
you can.
Yes,
why don't you approach an African company? They can give you 23,000 just like that." I said, "Yes, but what is in? They haven't seen what is in it for them. We've tried to approach African footballers. What have we not tried to get them to be involved? It goes back to how much do we respect our art and heritage? Because if we do, there are some companies like yours, it shouldn't be, because whatever you are doing there is for the new generation, these new ones that needs to know their heritage. That is all what it is. But who do we get to support us? It's a big problem. It's a conversation that I think needs to be, to be held on a larger scale, within the community. How do we support African arts and heritage, African Caribbean art and heritage? It's a big question. Maybe Utopia. This is a new thing you have to take forward. Organizing
yes,
events.
please.
That is a new one. Getting African Caribbean community to do something, about supporting African arts and heritage.
That's just brilliant. I know that Moji is very keen on cohesive working and developing things that will support and sustain the arts. So I'm sure she's listening somewhere in the audience, particularly. But Sharina, was that okay? Can I move on to Kehinde?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you very much. Kehinde, please. I think I've lost Kehinde.
No, I'm here. Thank you so very much. Thank you, sir. I wanted to, well done. So I wanted to ask that, well, in view of most of the conversation today, it's clear that the work of convincing or sustaining the understanding of our culture with young people is still, that work still needs to be done, like a lot of it needs to be done. I want to quickly take the example of the party, the birthday party you had attended, where the man who they brought the drums in for actually walked out. What, the one you brought the masquerade in for,
yeah,
the masquerade, yes. So now, because when the British colonization came into Nigeria, for instance, along came a lot of, well, they came with the burden, the good and the bad. They helped in maybe eradicating some barbaric things that were happening in our culture. I mean, the killings, the rituals, there were some parts of our culture that were not really good, and they helped in taking that away. And now that has helped, that has made some people get stuck on that idea that Christianity came and brought a good solution, not looking at the fact that as much as we keep clinging on to some of those things, we lose our cultural value and heritage. So how now, my question now is, how do we work on convincing the young people, enlightening them, educating them, and letting them know that, yes, there were some bad things in the culture. However, the culture still needs to be kept. It still needs to be sustained, because if the young people are interested in culture, I tell you, they are such a strong driving force. A lot of things will be much more easier. But we keep shying away from culture because we in Nigeria here, relate some part of our culture to our problems. We want to get away from our problems as much as possible. So we bring on a lot of Western influence, because, I mean, the Western influence is like opportunities for us. We're completely neglecting our cultural values. So how do you advise, sir, that we work on educating, sustaining, and, you know, making it a lot more attractive and not scary and all that? Because it can be quite, we have some things that have happened in our culture that are quite terrifying. Thank you.
Thanks for that. You are absolutely right. There are things within the culture that should, you know, be left behind. But at the same time, a good study of African arts, you know, and heritage, you know, particularly the philosophy behind them, you know, has always been sort of an educational, you know, positive one. But we try to hang on to the bad, you know. I think we need to continue showing the positive. This was why personally myself, you know, I'm from Delta State. I remember when a friend of mine was the commissioner of arts and culture in Delta State. I had to write to him, personally, you know, about how do you change content. I never used to watch Nigerian films. Why? Because everything, that perpetuation of that, you know, of the bad, you know, everything is about going to what we call the native doctor, the babalao. Everything is about bewitching. Everything is about witchcraft.
Witchcraft, ritual killings. Yes.
Yes, all this ritual. These are the things that are perpetuating, you know, the negative thinking. Whereas, you know, yes, they are there. Here in England, here in the West, those things, they did happen. Anybody who, if you read, you know, British history, they might even be worse than ours, you know. So they've overcome that. But we continue to portray that as the common denominator in our art form, whether it is cinema, people are singing, you know, look at the churches. Everything is about curse, about evil, about that. Those are the things that are perpetuating. But this is why I'm very much hopeful, especially with the way, you know, African music, take Nigerian music, for example, the way Nigerian music is dominating, you know, at the moment. African music is making, you know, big wave in the world, not just Africa, in the world. We all know, you know, because something positive is coming. These guys, they are no longer singing about witchcraft and all these things. They are singing about, you know, people's feelings, people's emotions, people's everyday problems. You know, this is where I think we should be focusing and stop this continuous portrayal of the negative. You know, of course, if as a child, somebody keeps showing you, if you are born here in London and all you know is about witchcraft, all you know is about, kidnap, or you're not going to associate yourself with that. You're not, you know. That's the way I see it. We as producers, we need to tell our story. It's not, we shouldn't say they are not there. They are there, but it should not be the thing that is dominating our story.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, have to agree. Kehinde, were you happy with that? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question is going to be from Belle Odawa. But before I go to Belle Odawa, I'm just going to remind you that there's a feedback form that's been posted. I think Rob will post it again. We're getting towards the end of the session. So Rob will post it again. Visit all our platforms, donate to us, and don't forget to find Iroko Theatre, Alex Oma Pius, on whatever platforms is on as well. Just give the creatives a championship out there in the world, because we need it right now. I'm going to say thank you so much, Alex, and we're going to be taking this next question from Belle Odawa, and then we'll be saying bye. Belle Odawa.
Hi, thank you for this meeting, and it's very inspirational. So I was born in Kenya, but I moved to the UK, and my parents didn't allow me to visit Kenya, and I've not been to Africa at all, but I've been told by many people that I should look into the culture and look into my background, but I don't know where to begin. So I was wondering, what would you recommend me to look at first, if that makes sense?
It does. Thanks for the question. You know, what I will advise is reading. You know, reading. Kenya, you have great authors. And I think that would be a great beginning, because reading African books. These are not books here. I don't. You know, I'm talking about books written by Kenyans, for example. You know, it should be the very, very beginning, because that is your window of looking into the heritage and culture. And you've got to be careful the book we're talking about here. I'm talking about books, you know, real, because a lot of people have published a lot of other things. But look at Kenya good authors, you know, literary authors. I would strongly believe that will be a beginning, you know. And from there, you have a good insight of the Kenya itself.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. And also, Alex, just your final words. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your time, and just taking us through your journey. If you could just give us your final words for today, please.
My final word for today is never give up. It's a tough one, but please, all of us, never give up. You know, with all that is happening, you can see with the Black Lives Matter, the struggle has been there right from a long time ago. And if there is any time for us to stand up, this is the time. Please never give up.
Thank you very much. And everybody, thank you for joining us today, and hope to see you at more events. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye.